The very first thought I had when I heard that Michael Jackson had passed away, and, you know, I thought it was terrific when they had these, you know, Michael Jackson had these kids, and I used to say to myself, there's no way he's even the father. I mean, I don't even think
I said it out loud.
I don't think they used his sperm, because I think he wanted kids around that had no biological connection to him. I think he loves having children around him, and having these three around him that were really not even his kids biologically must have been a real thrill, because he loves...
Well, he liked a certain type, too.
Yes. In fact, in one picture I saw, not Blanket, but Prince William, or whatever his name is.
Prince Michael.
Prince Michael. His hair was dyed blonde when he was like 2 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, who dyes a kid's hair when he's 2 years old blonde, bleached blonde? It looked like a vampire, this kid.
Really odd looking.
Yeah, I mean, wow, what the fuck was he up to with these kids? But, you know, I thought it was great that when he was alive, he went through all kinds of machinations to make sure that these kids' faces were covered up. You know, his head was, you know, the heads were covered up in blankets and masks.
Remember?
And Halloween masks. Don't ask what was going on. The second this guy died, I said, oh, thank God for these kids. Right away, they have them on TV. It was all over. They didn't have to wear masks. They didn't have to. You finally saw these kids, and you heard them talk. They seemed like they were, you know, normal children in the sense that they could speak. Who even knew? I thought they might be feral, you know.
You thought they weren't getting an education at all.
Well, I heard they're actually not. That they never went to a school.
Well, yeah, they were homeschooled, I'm sure.
You can imagine what they learned in that home school. Today we're going to learn how to electrocute you.
Well, nobody said Michael was doing the teaching.
I don't know, man. It didn't look like he could afford a good teacher. From what I understand, he went through every penny he ever made on fucking tchotchkes that were... whenever someone saw Michael Jackson in real life, they would say, there's that shithead. We're going to... $2 million for this statue.
Right.
Oh, that's beautiful. What is that?
It's made of plastic.
It's a nude boy pissing golden water out of his penis.
Perfect.
$2 million. $3 million. Give it $3 million.
I want it for $3.
Give me 20 of them.
He wasted more money, this guy, and God knows what he went through. The guy supposedly made $500 million to $1 billion in his lifetime, and somehow
still worth on paper a lot.
You bet. So, you know, I mean, there's a million things to discuss about the death of Michael Jackson, but I remember watching the tribute, you know, where they had Stevie. They trotted out Stevie Wonder. They trotted out Mariah Carey.
That's what Stevie does now, right? He sings at funerals.
These were all people, from my viewpoint, that 2 years ago wouldn't even take Michael Jackson's call. They wanted to just be done with this guy. I didn't know Mariah Carey felt so close.
Well, you know what? It's much like you said, you know, when people die, they're much easier to handle.
Yeah.
And that's when you should, like, stuff them and take them on tour. Because now you can do anything you want with them.
Well, that's what Joe Jackson wants to do, it seems. But I think Mariah Carey's connection was she sang, her first hit, I didn't realize this was I'll Be There.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, but I guess she redid that song.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not like Michael Jackson wrote that.
No, in fact, she probably had to pay him a fortune.
But he didn't write it.
Yeah, so... You know, I'm watching this tribute, and they'd march those kids out. Nobody covers their heads up. In fact, in that family, they like to show everything. I mean, they love it. And I said, thank God for these kids. They're, on some level, and I know the daughter said Daddy was the best daddy. Unfortunately,
what does she know?
She doesn't know any other daddies. You know,
you can't take her word for anything.
Yeah, I understand that in her opinion, she had the best daddy. But, you know, Adolf Hitler's daughter thought he was terrific.
Yeah, if you had asked Adolf's dog, he was the best dog owner.
There's no way Michael Jackson was the perfect daddy, in my opinion.
He made them wear masks.
Yeah.
And he was dyeing their hair.
And he dangled one of them off a balcony. That ain't the best daddy. But, you know, it's a funny thing. The first thought I had was, I said, wait till that Michael Jackson's father gets a hold of those three kids. He's going to turn them into superstars. He's going to, hopefully they could sing. And sure enough, it was no joke. Joe Jackson was saying, listen, you give those kids to me.
And I'll turn out a star.
I'm going to have Jackson 3.
We'll feed him, right?
I got
Blanket, get ready to dance.
I got 3 white kids I could whip into shape. All I got to do is give them the belt. And I guarantee you they'll be out there dancing just like I had Michael dancing. That motherfucker gets you to go. I mean, in the way that Andre...
Is he one of the scariest-looking people
Scary as hell. People talk about surgery. Michael Jackson, forget his surgery. What's going on with Joe Jackson's eyebrows and everything else that's on his face?
He is weird-looking.
Looks like a woman. But, you know, listen. One thing about this Joe Jackson, he can get you motivated.
He can take a set of kids and teach him to dance and sing.
He should start a school. And, you know, in the same way that Andre Agassi's father can get you to be a great tennis player, this cat can get you to sing and dance with that belt. He'll take that belt to you until you practice.
He'll beat you till you're talented.
Right.
Yeah.
He'll beat the talent into you.
And the lack of talent out of you.
I only wish that for so many young people who are directionless.
Right. They had a Joe Jackson.
So many people don't know what's going on.
You know what? Maybe he should market a belt.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
The Joe Jackson talent belt. It'll magically make you...
the talent into you.
You'll be Chris Rock in no time.
Rhythm belt.
So anyway, you know, I'm watching all the various tributes, and I heard Michael Jackson died. And in a way, you know, I hate to say this, but I felt good for these kids because I feel they're liberated. It's almost like they were in some bizarro world.
Yet nobody could get to them.
No one could get to them. They were covered up. Nobody
They could not be saved.
You know, and they were, you know, I don't know whether Michael Jackson was a child molester or not. Honest to God, I don't. I mean, he had the M.O. He was into children too much. He slept with them.
Even if he wasn't a molester, no child should have been around a person that crazy.
He set up a Neverland, which is like, you know, a low-level child molesters who don't have a lot of money always have a video game or an arcade game in their house.
Right. It used to be Super Mario Brothers.
Right. They move into a poor neighborhood and the kids see Super Mario Brothers and right away they're blowing some 50-year-old man. You know, I mean, it's just the way it goes.
That's how it goes.
And Neverland always seemed to me to be a very expensive Super Mario Brothers.
An enormous piece of bait.
There's a carousel, there's a this, there's a movie theater. You can't come into the movie theater with your parents. Your parents, here's $50,000. Tell your parents to go away.
One cop said he had an alarm as you approached his bedroom. An alarm went off in his bedroom.
What you clothes on?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And there were probably 50 locks.
I mean, we heard stories of Jesus juice and all this. And do I know he was a child molester? No. I don't want to say the guy was a child molester because I don't know. But the fact of the matter is he had all the trappings of being a child molester, and then he went out and got 3 children donated to him that he could have his hands on.
And notice when it happened, it was after, you know, like
after
people wouldn't bring their children to him anymore.
Right, it was brilliant. He said, well, if you're not going to bring your children to me, I'm going to bring my children to me.
I got a farm system.
I'm going to get some kids you can't take away from me.
It's my AAA team.
Yeah. So, you know, and the fact is, and I know it was confusing to a lot of people, I mean, he wanted white children, and he had white children. These were 3 white kids. And, you know, a million jokes. There were a million jokes on the Internet. I compiled all of them while we were away. The guys all kept track of them. As soon as Michael Jackson died, there were a million jokes.
I heard one yesterday. Did you hear the one about Farrah Fawcett dying and going to heaven?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
that
one. Want me to read them off to you?
Yeah.
All right, here's all the Michael Jackson jokes. So what is my opinion? My opinion is that these children, God only knows what their lives were like, but they might have a shot at some sort of normalcy now.
No, because they're still in the Jacksons' clutches.
Yeah. Yeah, when they were standing on stage during that Jackson tribute, I went, ay vey. I don't know who I'd want to be with. You know, when you have children, you make a will. And they say, who do you want to leave your children to when you die? And I said, I can't die. I don't have a person.
Looking around, I can't die.
I've watched everyone. I cannot die. I got to live. Lock me in a box and hermetically seal me because my kids are going to need me.
That's what you put in the will? I'm not dying.
I said I can't die. If you read that I'm dead, don't believe it. In fact, put my kids in the box with me because they're going to be in big trouble.
There's no one to leave them with.
They're better off.
I'd be better parent dead.
That's right. So anyway, you know, listen, in a way, God only knows what happened with these kids, but, you know, the evidence of him, and this isn't hearsay, he dangled his child off a balcony, and that kid wasn't taken away from him? That's insane. I mean, that is just like, that's like life and death shit right there. You know, was he having the kids blow him? They'll live through that. Dangling off a balcony, forget about it.
Can I blow you again? I don't want to get off the balcony.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary stuff. So, you know, who knows?
Well, the best thing about the will was it said, you know, like in the event of my death, my kids should go to my mother, and if my mother can't take them, send them to Diana Ross.
Right, that's weird.
Right. You know, while we were away, so many people died. And I'll play you some Michael Jackson stuff. We went into Harlem. We had Steve Grillo go interview people in Harlem, find out how they were feeling about this black icon,
extremely
or white female icon, depending on what you believe. You know, I thought, I met with Michael Jackson, and I spent very little time reflecting on that meeting, but I told you it was one of the most disturbing.
And you're an adult.
I'm a man. I'm a grown man. When I met him, I was about 40-something years old. And I can tell you, I was scared shitless. And I can't imagine that these kids weren't quaking in their little diapers when this guy... Time to change your diaper, little blanket. I mean, when you hear those words, head for Z Hills.
Who was in that meeting with him? Was it him?
Myself, my agent Don Buchwald, Sandy Gallen, a very well-known... at that point, he had a production company with Dolly Parton called Sand Dollar, and he was a famous manager and things like that, And Michael, and that was it. That was the four of us in that meeting. I don't remember anybody else being there.
Did he do a lot of talking?
No. And believe me, if you were in that meeting, you wouldn't remember anyone else either.
All you can do is stare at Michael.
My agent and I walked out of there. We looked like we had just seen Casper the Ghost. And I mean, we were shook up.
Right.
And... you get so shook up that you don't even know what to think. It is so scary to see a man who has done what he had done to himself. Forget the nose, the chin implant, which was supposed to make him look white. I guess white people have these bizarre chins. I guess they think white people... Plastic surgeons must think white people look like Jay Leno.
Well, I think he was doing this all himself. He'd go into the plastic surgeon and say, give me a cleft in my chin.
Right, like Kirk Douglas or something.
Yeah, like, I don't know why he wanted that.
He was like Frankenstein. He had the different parts of different people. And this guy, when I sat in that room with him, you couldn't even think straight. I didn't know what to say to him. I didn't know what to do. And he had nothing to say. I told you, we sat there. He had his nose taped with masking tape. God. Like white masking tape wrapped in a square, I can't even describe to you. And the tape was dangling because it was, I don't know, it was like hanging off his face, and he had Band-Aids on his fingers. And the Band-Aids had black ink all over them. I guess he had been reading the paper, and he'd touch his nose, and the tape would begin to turn black. It was white tape, but it turned black. And it was starting to unravel, and there was no nose under there. I mean, it was mystifying. Wow. You couldn't figure out what was going on. And as you're in this meeting, and it was, described to me that this was during his first child molestation situation.
Yeah.
And it was described to me that I was going to have my audience get outraged. I was going to scream that Michael Jackson was being persecuted, and then I was going to tell my audience to take to the street, and then the plan would be hatched that I would go to the street with my audience, and millions of people would show up, and we would scream for Michael Jackson. And then finally, Michael Jackson wouldn't do an interview with me, but he would walk by our big protest and wave to us. And that was the big plan.
Wow.
And I said, look, guys.
Who has that plan?
And with that, then Sandy walked out of the room, and then Michael and my agent, myself, were all sitting there staring at each other. And I said, I've got to say something. Michael just stares at you. And I said, Michael, I understand you're a meditator, or you were involved with Deepak Chopra. I knew that he knew Deepak Chopra. And he went, yeah. Deepak, yeah. Like that. Deepak, I said, well, I am a fan of Deepak Chopra's. I've read some of his stuff, and I know of him, and, yeah, Deepak, good man, Deepak,
Brilliant.
This was the conversation. And then I just said, fuck this, I give up. So we stood and we stared at each other. I mean, we sat and stared at each other, and my agent stared. Nobody said anything, and Sandy came back in the room, and I said, guys, look, I've heard your plan, and I want to be honest with you. That's really not my style to say to my audience, let's take to the streets for Michael Jackson. I would like to do an interview with Michael Jackson. I would like to interview him, and I have a deal over at ABC, or I certainly know enough network people that I would go on a network and interview him for an hour. And all the people would see that he was standing up to my questions. I'm known as a pretty thorough interviewer and pretty tough on people if they have, they're involved in a controversy. I'm not afraid to ask questions. And seeing as how Michael is innocent I am sure he will have no problem answering my questions and standing up to me.
Perfect idea.
And they were like, you know.
Never mind.
Well, no, it was like, and so then they said, well, we'll get back to you, blah, 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 blah. And I told you, a couple of days later, they announced that Diane Sawyer was going to interview Michael Jackson, and I was, my idea was a good one. It's just that I think they were
gave
crazy.
It to someone else.
They gave it to Diane Sawyer, and we know the rest is history.
What was in it for you? Were they offering you anything? Like, were they going to give you money for this?
They weren't even interviewing me in an interview on radio with Michael Jackson after I took to the streets.
Right, nothing. Just a wave. He would walk by and wave.
Yeah, it was like I was being inducted into the army of Michael Jackson, and I would get the pleasure of seeing him walk by our big protest. Who even knows if he would have walked by? I would have looked like a real horse's ass if I went with this one. I said, guys might want to call Rick Dees. I think he might go for that. Rick Dees, or if there was a Ryan Seacrest at that point, I think they would have gone for that.
Yeah, maybe go get him.
Yeah, I mean, they would have jumped on the Michael Jackson bandwagon, but I wasn't going for it. As much as it was tempting to be involved in anything Michael Jackson at that point.
Yeah, but a walk-by? I don't think so.
No, I didn't sell us out. Listen, I'm not beyond selling us out. It's just, come on.
Got to go for more than that, though.
That's right. So Michael Jackson dies, and everyone wants to know what I think, and I think that I think it's probably healthy for the children. I really hate to say it.
I actually think it was the best move he's made in years. Look at how his career has been revived.
Nobody cared about him. And, listen, do I think, Joe Jackson has said that he believes there was foul play in his son's death. I imagine if you're pumping, and I don't know, I haven't seen any autopsy. I'm not privileged to any of this information, even though I had a meeting with him. But
they didn't call you?
If doctors were, or one doctor was prescribing all of these different medications, and I've heard anesthesia and all this stuff.
That's the latest, that he was an anesthesia addict. I don't know how you get addicted to anesthesia.
Even Artie doesn't do that.
I mean, they were mentioning drugs and this stuff that, like...
You didn't even know.
No, I mean, like Diprovan, like all this...
Did it give you ideas?
No. I mean, it really is a sad story.
You had to assemble a medical team before you went to sleep every night.
Right, right.
Well, this last guy, again, I don't know what's true or not, but they were talking about oxygen tanks in there and everything.
Yeah.
It seemed like that guy, like Frankenstein, was keeping someone alive and then popping them up when they needed to pop up.
It was an extremely sad life.
So hopefully the children didn't see him much. He was always under anesthesia.
Oh, I think the nanny was raising those kids, and they got to, when he felt like playing, like when he used to play with his chimpanzee, the same with these kids, and they loved him because he was a lot of fun for a few minutes, and then he'd go back into the hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, it was like Santa would come.
Right. Say, look who's visited. Daddy, it's Blakey. But these kids, you felt when you saw this funeral service, the daughter got up there and said Daddy was the best daddy. And you understand why. It wasn't that he was the best daddy. It's the only daddy she had. And it's scary. Her daddy's gone.
And he didn't let them see anybody else, really.
Yeah, he kept them sequestered. One
of the funniest things that Joe Jackson said when he first came out was, these kids have never seen other kids before.
Right, they haven't. And, in a way, it's like what they do when they develop a cult. The cult leader locks himself up in a compound, and he begins to indoctrinate them. So hearing the daughter say he was the best daddy doesn't surprise me. I'm sure she was taught that every day. In the same way they teach the Chinese students that Chairman Mao was a real, godsend.
Right.
And the same with that character in North Korea.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, Kim Jong-il the second, or whatever his name is.
It's ill that is the...
Oh, is it? It's not the second?
I don't know.
Kim Jong-il is ill. He lived up to his name. He's got pancreatic cancer. One can only hope he drops dead soon.
But there have been these kind of rumors about him for years.
He keeps on ticking. Well, I mean, this Kim Jong-il, he's busy with the nuclear weapons. I got a feeling before he's saying to himself, if I'm going to die, let me blow up the world.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking everybody with me.
Yeah, I don't. I wish he would be healthy in a way, because then maybe he wouldn't want to die with the rest of us. But there was so many bizarre things going on while we were away. I'll try to do a recap. First of all, as soon as Michael Jackson, that it was reported he was dead, there was this bizarre report that the actor Jeff Goldblum had died. Did you remember? Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that either.
This was from Australian TV. This was reported. By the way, Jeff Goldblum is fine, but imagine his family must have freaked out.
And Richard Wilkins joins us now. Richard, do we have any more on this breaking news of Jeff Goldblum in New Zealand falling to his death?
Look, all I have is in front of me a report saying that New Zealand police are saying that Jeff Goldblum fell from a cliff to his death while filming in New Zealand. I'm not sure where. I haven't had a chance actually to check it out, but reports this morning that Hollywood actor and all-round nice guy, everyone who comes in contact with Jeff Goldblum always said what a good bloke he was.
Some of the movies he's been in, Jurassic Park, The Fly, The Big Chill.
Yeah, and lots more. He's a very prolific worker and was shooting a movie in New Zealand. I'm not even sure what he was doing there. There's plenty to get our heads around this morning, but that would be an absolute tragedy if Jeff Goldblum had also passed away today, although New Zealand police are saying that was the correct story. So we're waiting from confirmation on a couple of fronts this morning.
Okay, we're also waiting.
Great actor, Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. He was fantastic. He was married to Gina Davis at one stage. I don't think they had children together. She had her children with her next husband, but
anyway, he got
a whole era on a whole lot of fronts. Now we are waiting.
He got a whole eulogy going there.
What banter.
They were saying nice things, at least.
Yeah, they were like, wow, what a great loss to the acting community, Jeff Goldblum. He hasn't heard that in a while.
Great tragedy.
Great tragedy. So that was going on. And what can I tell you? Okay, so the big clip about let me finish up with Michael Jackson here. The big clip was that they got a hold, like 3 days later after Michael Jackson died, they got a hold of this Joe Jackson, the father of Michael Jackson. He was on a red carpet somewhere.
There was the BET Awards or something.
The Black Entertainment Awards.
Yeah, it happened like the next night.
Yeah, and so Joe Jackson was on the red carpet, and people were critical of him. I haven't heard this tape, but they said that he was immediately promoting and...
well, his son had just died, first of all, and he's at an award show.
Yeah, well, here we go.
CNN is live on the red carpet at the BET Awards, and so is the father of Michael Jackson. Joe Jackson joins us here tonight. How you doing, sir? How's the family holding up?
I'm great. My family's doing pretty good.
I'm great.
I'm great, and the family's doing pretty good.
I'm great.
I love him. He's my favorite.
And Al Sharpton's always standing next to him.
Yeah, I'm terrific.
Never better.
We never have had so much action as we have since the death of my son.
We have got to capitalize on the opportunities we have right now.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
You want to tell the last couple of days? I know it's been really tough for you guys.
And? Yeah, it has. It has been really tough. Remember, we just lost the biggest star in the world, superstar in the world. So
we lost the biggest superstar.
He's almost like a fan.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like you didn't know him.
know Michael.
And we lost my son, is what you're supposed to say. Somebody ought to coach this character. But then again, look at his eyebrows. You know he doesn't have judgment.
Well, that's why they ran and got Al Sharpton, because he needed help.
He needed help. Al knows how to talk in these situations.
Yeah. You get the idea that Joe Jackson never even came close to shedding a tear, though.
Right.
You know, like it just was like nothing.
Look, Artie, he's great.
Right.
He said he's great. He was not lying.
I'm great.
it's been tough.
Why'd you decide to show up here tonight? Is it to pay tribute to your son, to make sure?
Yeah, to show pictures of my son. Yeah, Michael. Yes, we did. Yeah. I did.
How is Mrs. Jackson?
She's fine, thank you.
Is there anything you would like to share with the world about your son and about his legacy? Or?
Yeah, I got a statement here. Give me this statement here.
So the statement, his publicist is going to come up and read a statement, and then we'll talk more with him.
Okay, this is written on behalf of Mr. Jackson and the family. Our family sincerely thanks all of you around the world for your love and support during our time of grief. Our beloved son, Michael Jackson, loved you all. Michael's children are our first priority. We will have further announcements to discuss our plans going forward. Until such time, however, we have the personal and legal authority to act, and solely Catherine and I have authority for our son and his children. We wish to handle his memory and legacy with...
See how sad I am? Yeah. I got a statement. Man, he has a written statement, and isn't that the most bizarre statement so far? Like, he's talking about that they have custody of the kids.
Yeah, and he keeps putting his name and Catherine in charge of the kids.
All of a sudden, they're buddies again.
And the attorney for the Jacksons is Lindell McMillan, and no one else has authority to speak on behalf of the Jackson family at this time.
Thank you very much for that.
And no one else has authority.
Boy, what a moving statement.
You couldn't get any more beautiful. If only my parents would issue a statement like that when I died.
Would you write that down? Because I want to use that.
Sounds like they're going to court.
Only my lawyer has authority.
Yes. Any other statements are false.
Jackson, I was talking to you about the legacy that Michael Jackson left. Do you think that the world even realizes how big your son's legacy is?
And now they seem to realize it now, but the only thing it is, I wish the world had recognized him when he was living.
We did recognize him.
Are you kidding? The man sold more albums than anybody.
Who was more recognized?
And not only did we recognize him, he was bizarre.
Yeah.
I think we recognized him and gave him every shot, but the guy just kept turning us off.
Because, but right now he's bigger than ever now. But I wish he was here to see all this, to hear all this. Yes.
We've been hearing from the Reverend Sharpton, the Reverend Jackson, that you had some concerns regarding...
By the way, isn't it sad? I mean, you talk about the biggest tragedy in this. Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, it's never been more apparent that since we have a black president and, we have many black officials now, these poor bastards have been resigned to just showing up at funerals. I mean, they used to have some real shit to talk about. Racism, all this stuff.
It was like they couldn't get there fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, and Jesse Jackson didn't even get to talk.
Al Sharpton took over.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I didn't even know Al Sharpton knew Michael Jackson.
Probably didn't.
I mean, he's up there on the stage, and he's given a speech. You would have thought Gandhi just died. It was unbelievable.
He created a comfort level. When people that felt they were separate became interconnected with his music.
Shut the fuck up.
What are you talking about?
And it was that comfort level that kids from Japan and Ghana and France and Iowa and Pennsylvania got comfortable enough with each other to later it wasn't strange to us to watch Oprah on television. It wasn't strange to watch Tiger Woods golf. Those young kids grew up from being teenage, comfortable fans of Michael to being 40 years old and being comfortable to vote for a person of color to be the president of the United States of America.
I think if you just yell a lot with that echo on your voice.
It sounds like you're saying something.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm saying nothing. But look. If I yell at you, if I raise my tone of voice, everything sounds more important.
Japan.
Japan. Iowa. Iowa.
Comfortable.
Oprah. Tiger Woods.
Now, nobody would have watched Tiger Woods golf if Michael hadn't come around?
No.
And I guess Michael, by becoming the most bizarre-looking person on Earth, made it comfortable to look at anybody.
Right, nothing was strange. That's what he said.
Don't even bring that up.
Nothing is strange. Did you see this motherfucker?
But if you're if I ever get to be a communications professor, which is what I aspire to be, I'll say to my students, just yell with an echo chamber and you'll have a career. I'm telling you. It is 6:32 a.m.
The best time of the
This is a time I enjoy giving. And now I will give the seconds. 28 seconds, 29 and 30. 63 degrees, 32 seconds, and it's still 6:32.
Interconnected.
Any of those words will work.
Michael did that. Michael made us love each other. Michael taught us to stand with each other.
Really?
There are those that like to dig around mess. But millions around the world, we're going to uphold his message. It's not about mess. It's about his love message. As you climb up steep mountains, sometimes you scar your knee. Sometimes you break your skin. But don't focus on the scars. Focus on the journey. Michael beat him. Michael rose to the top. He outsang his cynics. He outdanced his doubters. He outperformed the pessimists. Every time he got knocked down, he got back.
Boy, the body wasn't even cold and he was right on it. He already knew what to do, man. This guy
had that speech written.
He turns to those kids of Michael Jackson's, those poor kids, and he says to them, a lot of people said your daddy was strange. Nothing strange about your daddy. What was strange is what he had to deal with.
That's strange.
It was like wild. I mean,
they didn't know what picture to put up at that memorial. It's like, which Jackson? I mean, it was much like Elvis. Do you go with the fat Elvis or the thin Elvis?
Oh, my God.
This was like, which color Jackson do you go to?
Yeah, because
what shade?
Metamorphosis was incredible. Personally, I like the early Michael Jackson with the afro and the nose that was a black man's nose. I mean, come on. Well, what are we talking about here?
Every time you counted him out, he came back in. Michael never stopped. Michael never stopped. Michael never stopped.
3 times, Michael never stopped.
You got to repeat everything 3 times. Put that in your notes for your lecture.
So, I mean, he was a guy who had to have children, but he was a drug addict.
I even heard reports that maybe Debbie Rowe isn't related to these children either.
Well, she definitely was the mother, no?
It might not have been her eggs. Like, she might not have had anything. She might not have contributed any DNA either.
I know what you mean, because those kids are awfully good-looking people.
Yeah, and she was not.
She was no looker.
Yeah.
So maybe he went ahead and got, like, you know, some hot chick and...
That's what I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to make sure those kids were Macaulay Culkin-like.
Right.
You know. The kids were absolutely angelic looking at this thing. You know, you felt for them. You really do, because God only knows what hornet's nest they're stepping into now. Now they're leaving that wacko Jacko, and now they're going to, you know...
The guy who made Wacko Jacko.
Yeah, the guy who made Jacko Wacko.
His guru.
Yeah. So, good luck. Let's see. So Joe Jackson on the red carpet. Should we continue with that?
That's great.
Some of the last moments of the people who were around him in his life. Do you care to share that?
Yes. Listen, what was that?
I said you had some concerns about the physicians and the people who were around him during the last moments of his life.
Yes, I am. I have a lot of concern. But
what are your concerns about that?
I can't get into that, but I don't like what happened.
You don't like what
This is my attorney here.
Yeah. So I was asking him, he said he'd come on in here. You're Lundell, right?
Yes, sir.
He says he has some concerns about the last moments of his son's life, about who may have been around him. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, we can't talk about that now. There's a second autopsy that's underway, and we'll let that process take its course at this time.
Do you know anything, Mr. Jackson, about funeral arrangements? Have you had time to...
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet. Yeah, but we're working on that.
Yeah.
This is Marcia. Yeah, I want you to...
Thank you. How is... you said your wife is... What about Janet and the rest of the family, the daughters and everything?
They're all doing fine. But I want to make this statement. This is a real good statement here. Marshall and I, we own the record company called...
Rance Records. Okay, it's distributed by Blu-ray technology. And that's his next step.
And that's your next step. There had been... talk to us about this.
Wow. To the good news.
That's amazing.
Yeah, never mind this Michael Jackson horse shit. Let me get on to something important.
The next day he went on and tried to explain why this happened, and he claimed people asked him what he was doing next. Right. Nobody asked him anything. He brought that up.
Yeah.
Your 60th wedding anniversary. As I understand, in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, the entire family was there, and Michael said that he had wanted the members of his family to come help out.
My birthday?
Your wedding anniversary, you and Kat in Las Vegas.
Oh, that was fantastic. Yes, it was. A lot of people were there, and a lot of people I was glad to see. It was a fantastic job that was done. That's the first one, though. That was our first wedding anniversary we had, and they came out fantastic.
What's next for you guys?
We got a lot fixing to happen, but I can't announce it right now. Okay?
All right.
Thank you much.
Joe Jackson, the father of Michael Jackson, also here with friends, and his attorney also joined us.
Boy, I never travel with an attorney.
You don't have everything set up yet.
Yeah,
you don't even need to be going out of the house without your attorney.
I haven't made that move yet. I have my attorney with me. Here's some other Joe Jackson stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess it's from the same interview?
I don't know.
I'm here to witness that Marshall, and this is Marshall, by the way.
This is some press conference.
Yeah, this, I think, was where he tried to explain that he wasn't trying to capitalize on Michael's death.
And also, this is something that we want you to know, that I was asked a question last night about the record company. Well, what I'm doing is I established a record company with Marshall, and the company is called Marantz Record distributed by Blue Star and Blu-ray. Yeah. So we have a lot of good artists fixing to come out. And I was asked that question, and I answered just like it was asked, because they wanted to know what else I was doing.
Now, that's his explanation for why he brought it up.
It's delusional.
Who do you think should raise these children now that Michael is gone?
Their grandmother, Catherine, and I. Yes, there's no one else to do what we can do for them. You keep them all together and make them happy and feed them.
Don't forget, I possess the belt that hit Michael Jackson and turned him into a big star. And this motherfucker never thanked me one day in his life.
I beat a moonwalk into that motherfucker.
Yeah. You'd be walking backwards, too, if I took out my belt.
This was the belt I beat Thriller out of him.
Yeah. Beat it. Look at my face. I mean, it's scary. You will walk backwards.
You look like you walking on the moon, too.
That's right. Daddy teach you to walk backwards.
On the moon.
He's looking forwards, but he's moving backwards.
He's supposed to be fed and let them get rest, plenty sleep, and grow up to be strong Jacksons.
Does your eye see any possibility for their growing into performers someday?
I keep watching Paris. She wants to do something, you know. Well, they said Blanket. He can really dance. That's what they're saying. He can really dance, Blanket.
Blanket. Ladies and gentlemen, my latest discovery on my Blu-ray-backed record label,
Rancho Records.
Rancho Records is, you know what, he said now, you know, he's trying to get the word out about his record label. I still can't tell you the name of it.
It's Marantz is what
Marantz. Okay. And now, Marantz is backed by Blu-ray. I heard Blu-ray. All I hear is Blu-ray, Blue Star, Blu-ray, Blue Star, Marantz.
Yeah, I was asked the question.
Talk to my attorney. Excuse me, here's my electrician if you want to talk to him.
And he keeps saying Marshall and I. I'm like, Marshall? Who's Marshall?
I thought he said Marsha.
Marshall. Oh, I thought it was Marsha.
Yeah, me too.
Marshall Matt Dillon from Gunsmoke is here with me.
There's a Marshall there.
Marshall Tucker's here.
Marshall Tucker and the Marshall Tucker Band, who are on Blu-ray, Blue Disc.
Yeah, look, great artists fixing to come out.
But could you imagine? He goes, yeah, looking at that blanket, I think I got something I could do with him. I'm not sure. Let's see what
I'm looking at Paris, but Michael told me that Blanket can dance.
I won't really know until I put the belt to him. Then we'll see what we can get out of him. Maybe he'll start walking backwards.
Now, he's talking about an anniversary and him and Kevin. I don't think they're married.
Oh, really?
60th. It's our first anniversary we had. Nothing he says makes any sense.
No.
I don't think they live in the same house. I think there's a whole bunch of shenanigans going on
None
here.
of your B.I. business. Now, let's get back to something important. Blanket. And whether he got some talent.
Let's see, Blanket. Let's see your moves.
Let's see your move. That isn't so good. Where's my belt?
Get over here.
Poor Blanket.
Look, Prince Michael, can you follow that move?
You ain't no motherfucking prince, son. You need the belt. The belt going to turn you into a prince. I'll turn your daddy into a princess.
I'll make you a king with this belt.
Yeah, king of pop. Yes, sir. Well, that was all alleged anyway. We don't know that he beat him, but
Michael said it.
Michael
I think Joe admitted to being a strong disciplinarian. That's what he said.
All right, so...
But that's a good point about the kids. For all the painstaking time he took when they were alive not to show their faces, now they're the most recognizable people on the planet.
Well, yeah, but they don't look like Michael Jackson, so that might save them.
Yeah.
So, as it turned out, Michael Jackson spent a lot of years trying to cover their faces, and then the second he was dead, they're on worldwide television.
Not one kid said, where's my mask?
Right. I'm surprised they didn't, like one of the kids would go, oh, my God, they're showing my face on TV. My daddy said terrible things would happen. And, you know, this Michael Jackson, the reason they used to say to him, why are you covering your kids' faces? And he said, well, I'm afraid they'll be kidnapped. I'm such a big star. I said, he's the worst guy to kidnap their kids. He didn't have a fucking dime. You'd be better off kidnapping, you know.
Well, that's why you had to protect him. He wouldn't have been able to pay the rent.
You'd be better off, you know, your sanitation worker has more money than Michael Jackson. This guy owes $500 million.
Kidnap the doctor.
A ransom from Michael Jackson. He said, keep the kid.
Keep him. I got no money for you. Forget it. So, I don't know what he was busy covering up.
Well, he claimed that when they were with him, apparently, they walked around without masks when they were with anybody else.
Oh, good.
But they only walked around in masks when they were with him.
I guarantee you whoever kidnapped him was more normal than
It would have been like being saved.
They would have been like, let me stay with you.
Yeah, don't take me back, please.
What is this? We're the Symbionese Liberation Army. My name is Sinkyu. Could you raise me? Do I have to wear a mask when I'm around other people when I'm with you?
It would be more normal to rob banks than what I've been going through.
Only when you're robbing a bank you need to wear a mask.
Brooke Shields was quite moved.
And I don't think she's seen him in years. You know, she didn't have any recent stories about Michael.
Yeah, they trotted out everyone who was connected to him in 1984.
Right.
Yeah, I guarantee you these people were not that in touch with him toward the end. I don't think anybody wanted anything to do with him, quite frankly. But all right, so that's I mean, everyone was bothering me on vacation. I can't believe you're away for 2 weeks when Michael Jackson just died. I go, what do you think I got to say about this fucking nut? I mean, what do you say?
I mean, it's obvious.
Don't build your life around what I got to say. What are you, nuts? I mean, people are whacked out of their skulls wherever I went on my vacation. I can't wait for you to get back talking about Michael Jackson. All right, I say, tell you what, I'm going to spend 45 minutes on that motherfucker when I get back, and you'll hear what I have to say.
Tune in.
So
people were telling me, like, what do you think Howard thinks? Like, I don't know.
What do I think? I didn't know till I sat down what I thought.
Actually, no one else made that point about the kids, not even in the press, with how recognizable they are now.
I couldn't even imagine that the people were carrying on like this for a guy who was basically washed up. I mean,
But that's what I said. It's the best career move he's made. Yeah. He's huge. I mean, he had 4 songs in the top 40 or the top 20 the week he died.
Did he really?
It was just like everything just blew up. And, you know, people started talking about how many copies Thriller still sells. You know, it was just all positive stuff.
Mr. Blutarsky. 0.0. You're out. Finished at Faber, expelled. I want you off this campus at 9 o'clock Monday morning.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, và hôm nay em sẽ giới thiệu cho mọi người một sự lựa chọn. Một chiếc xe phân khúc hạng B, một chiếc Honda City RX sản xuất 2021, bản 1.5 số tự động, phiên bản màu đen. Chiếc xe này siêu lướt nhé. Và trước khi em công bố nó có những cái gì và nó thế nào và nó mức giá bao nhiêu thì em xin quay tổng thể chiếc xe cho mọi người cùng xem. Xe màu đen, các bạn nhìn thấy đèn trước nhìn rất là đẹp. RF Honda là một trong những dòng phân khúc hạng B rất là được ưu